Welcome to Whachacha's Tabletop World, the channel devoted to the love of board gaming. My name is Sweetness Whachacha, and today we're looking at Cryptic Killer's Murder of a Millionaire. Again, this is spoiler-free. Now, as with all the games in this series, the game itself is contained within an evidence bag, which is a nice touch. There is a contents sheet to make sure you aren't missing anything, and then a variety of evidence. There is no order to it, you just go through it all in whatever order you like, returning to different evidence often. There are some receipts printed on actual receipt paper for immersion, and a pamphlet for train times, again, very realistic, a bunch of photographs, police reports, financial statements, text chains from the police department, maps, crime scene photos, a newspaper, which again looks and feels legitimate, and a lot of other information to sift through. There are also some reports you will have to go online to find. It is its own puzzle to figure out where and how to log in. There are also hints and information on the website, and to solve the case you will have to go online and enter the suspect or suspect's name to see if you got the answer right. So what do I think? Let's start with this. A lot of these mystery type games that you play, they usually have some sort of artificial constraint, whether that's timing or whether that's you can only look at a certain amount of information, or there's some other mechanisms in there just to make it more of a game and limit you from seeing all of the information. Well, that's not here at all. You can just look at everything. There's no turns, there's no turn order, there's no figuring, there's no rules to learn and understand. All you're doing is just reading through and getting information. And I really like that quite a lot. Everything looks pretty realistic. The newspapers, the receipts and things like that, they all kind of have a nice feel. They're not just printed out to look that way. Like the paper is actually different. And that helps really with the immersion. This game kind of really reminds me of like, if you're like some retired cop or something and the chief is like, we can't figure this case out, and he brings the case file over to you and drops it down, and you just sit there with your coffee or whatever and you start pouring through the data. Now, obviously a real case is going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of paper and data and etc. But this does give you that same kind of sense, and it's very enjoyable. I quite like it. Now, the mystery itself is interesting. I mean, it's not the kind of case that I would go to immediately and think like that's very inspiring or exciting to learn about, but it works. You know this right off the bat, but it's someone, a woman has won the lottery and she's been killed. And there's actually a real life case that I was listening to just a few months ago, where somebody won the lottery and it ended up being the worst thing that happened to them. So it's kind of an interesting like little topical type thing. But you're essentially kind of like going through the list of suspects. You're trying to like parse out the data and figure out what's important and why each piece of data has to be linked up and what the use of each thing is. And you have to kind of reread things, read it for the first time, and then come back to it at different points. And you're essentially mostly just getting the suspects and figuring out whether their alibis hold up, whether they've got an alibi, whether they've got the motive, and you're just sort of Xing people off the list until you get to the inevitable, like, who is it and why did they do it? There are some various puzzles and things, like, not to give anything away, I won't, but, there's some light, like, very light, like, escape room-ish type puzzles. There's little things to figure out, like ciphers and things like that, and some interesting spatial puzzles as well, using maps and things like that. So I quite like that. One little knock I have against it, I don't really like the part when you go online. I do like that that there's an online part to it, but I've only played a couple of these, but each time I found logging into that, it's like I know the answer, but for some reason, I don't know, I find it a little frustrating, that part of it, but I do really like that stuff is there. Now, I've only, as I said, I played another one of these, and that one had, the mystery here was a little less interesting. That mystery I feel was a little more interesting. It was Murder at the Movie Theater. There was a little more higher end stuff online, like there was some video clips and things, some mock news reels, which I thought was really pretty impressive actually. Here when you go online, there's not as many bells and whistles, I guess. So I did prefer that other case. I also thought the other case was a little more difficult. This one was pretty easy. It wasn't that hard. It was an enjoyable mental exercise to go through the whole thing, but it wasn't super hard. It took me maybe an hour and a half. Now I played this particular one solo. I played The other one that I played, the Murder at the Movie Theater, with a group. And I think it's fun both ways. I think it's fun to sit with your cup of coffee or tea or whatever, and and go through the case on your own speed and stuff. And that's quite enjoyable as an activity. Also, though, being able to bounce your ideas off other people is quite enjoyable as well. I think the less people, the better, though, because then you don't have to kind of hog the evidence and stuff and try to get your point across. It's kind of nice to have it both ways, I guess. Now, I've played dozens and dozens of different kinds of board games over the years that deal with mysteries like this, from Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, very famous game, to more recent games like Chronicles of Crime and everything in between. And this Cryptic Killer system is one of my favorites, actually. I really, really quite enjoy it. There's something about having those, the actual data and stuff to go through. It feels kind of real. It's fun to do it and figure out kind of what's important and what's not, and how things fit together. And you can do it pretty quickly. It's a pretty interesting little thing. It's a real good bang for your buck as well. So it's a very good recommend for me. And this is, again, I think this one was not my favorite in this series so far, but I did very much enjoy it. That's Murder of a Millionaire, excuse me. Well, but for now, I gotta roll.